So this is my personal project video. For my personal project, I made a fishing lure, a walk the dog kind of stick bait lure in particular. The goal of my project was to learn more about how lures are constructed and to just do it myself and learn more about fishing in general. So the global context that applies to my personal project was scientific and technical innovation. I thought that this was the global context that applied the most because I created a fishing lure that was essentially supposed to be better than ones I have used in the past. I'm also creating this lure, and it's not just an idea. So going through the process and creating it fits this global context. And also, I want my project to impact the fishing community because I want it to be better than lures that are used by most people. So, my prior knowledge to doing the personal project was pretty. It was pretty strong, I would say. I thought that I knew a lot about lures and how they worked and how they were built, kind of, because when you're a fisherman, you have to replace things and make things work better when things break. So I found myself fixing lures and replacing the treble hooks and split shots and all of that kind of stuff. So I had a pretty good prior knowledge. The only part that I didn't know was just constructing it from start to finish. So that's where I learned how to do that in my personal project. So for planning, I had a pretty good outline of what I wanted to do, and when I first started, I had to find some sources and some people who knew what they were doing and could inform me about the process of building a lure. So I visited some web pages. I looked up some blogs and figured out what I needed to learn. And some of those things were Head and Lures, which is a big lure company that specifically focuses on topwater baits, which was what my bait was, is a topwater bait. So, and another one was Jason Christie, who is a professional fisherman who fishes on the FLW tour, and he works a lot with topwater baits. So, going to him and reading his perspective and opinion on these baits helped me formulate my criteria, and which needed to be done. And so as I was going, I made sure that I had a outline of what I wanted to do. So I planned what I wanted to do, when I wanted to do it, when I wanted to get things accomplished. So I made a little chart, and by a certain date, I got everything done. So day 1, do the research. Day 2, figure out what I needed to get to build the lure. Day 3, order the parts and start to sketch a prototype, so I knew what I wanted my lure to look like. And then as it kept going on, I kept progressing until the final product was finished. So across the span of the whole time it took me to do my personal project, I did make changes, but not very significant. I think that the reason is because I kind of just stuck to what other lure brands had. I stuck to their design. I didn't want to differ from that because I just wanted to get the basics down. I didn't really want to venture out too much. So I didn't really make any significant changes. So my self-management skills throughout the project, I feel like they didn't really get that much better because I did procrastinate a lot on this, but I still got things done. on the days I said I was going to, but it was kind of like, wait for the night before. So self-management, could have been better, but I feel that overall it was a good learning experience and something to fix in the future. So for taking action, um, so once I got my pieces and my parts for creating the actual product and the final product, I kind of just got on a roll. I stuck with it, and I pretty much got most of the like short term things done in a day. Like I had to sand the balsa wood, put the pieces on, get the epoxy, and by like the end of the day, I already had everything assembled and my first layer of epoxy on. So I was really excited for that step. Um, so this kind of like this kind of showed how it related to my this kind of shows how it related to my global context, which was scientific and technical innovation, because um, putting the pieces together and formulating the whole lure and going through the things that didn't work, kind of like showed me what I needed to do and showed how things were difficult for me. And so after the first couple days of making my lure, I found that um I was doing things kind of like out of order. Not out of order, but not the way I wanted to. Um, I found that um, I so after I assembled all the pieces, the I realized that the epoxy had to go on first before I could put the pieces on. So I had to take them out, do the epoxy, and then once I was done, I realized I had to put another coat on. So it was all this, yeah, it was all these like steps that I had to go through that really got me thinking about how I needed to go about finishing the project, and it was hard, but I ended up getting it done. So um, that was good. So for my reflection. I talked about the changes I made. I didn't really make any changes to the design, but I did make some changes um, to my procedure and the process and the steps that I did. But overall, the product was it followed the criteria pretty well. I think so. That's pretty good. And then um, I I really didn't demonstrate a deeper knowledge of the global context because I don't know, it really didn't show any significance to my project other than the fact that it was just assembling the lure. So, you know, I just found it as like a fun hobby, like to do it in the future, just to make lures in the future. I really didn't see any significance, and um, I think my strengths of this project were definitely um, being able to just get it done and cram a whole lot of steps into one day, or a whole lot of steps into like one little segment of the process. So I mean, getting stuff done fast was, I guess, one of my strengths, and definitely one of my weaknesses was procrastinating and not getting it done on time. Um, so so when I looked up the learner profiles, I found that I was a thinker and a knowledgeable person. I think I developed as a thinker because in order to make the best lure I could, I had to think through the scenarios where the lure would excel or the lure would fail. And I think I was a knowledgeable person because I developed as a person and learned more about the lures and the lure making process. And one thing I did learn that was really significant to me was when I was buying the materials, um, I ordered some pieces that were too small and that really didn't fit on the 4-inch frame of the balsa wood. So I had to, I had to work with it. They still ended up working, but I would have liked them to be a little bigger. So I did learn about what sizes to buy in the future and how big I needed my pieces to be. And um, really, the opportunities that the project gave me overall were just the experience to make a lure, because I probably wouldn't have done it on my own time. I have made lures in the past, but I think, something of this magnitude I would have never done on my own, just out of fun. I mean, maybe I would have, but I think that's what that's the opportunity the project gave me. And um, the possible impact of the project for my future learning. Um, I think that overall the project gave me a sense of like doing something even when you don't have to do it, really, because technically the personal project you really didn't have to do. It's not graded, doesn't affect your GPA, so um, my future learning I don't think was really affected by it, but um, it is what it is. So that's my personal project, and thank you for listening.